All right, guys, we are live for the masterclass tonight. We want to welcome you here. Kay and I want to welcome you, and we're just so excited to get this rolling. We've really came together and we created some great stuff for you here tonight. We have some great new things going on that we want to introduce to you coming forward. So with that said, just want to create like a great space for us tonight. And Kate, what do you have to say to the people?
Well, I just want to welcome everybody to like the new paradigm, right? This co-creative space where we can all connect and share our gifts and talk about what that looks like. If you get distracted, I have 2 little fur babies in the background, so I'll just introduce them as well as they pop into the screen. And really what I want to say is if you're here, realistically, you've probably registered to a lot of classes, a lot of free webinars, and you're seeking something. There's something you're looking for. So we want to say that we're really happy that you decided to join us because we're excited to share everything that we've been creating together. And we also want to invite you to let this be the thing that makes a difference. So there's a lot of things that you can do on the external world. We want to invite you back inside, and we hope that you get exactly what you're looking for by being here. And I know that you wanted to go over the outline for the night, so go ahead and do that.
So tonight we're going to be doing basically get to know you, Kate and I, and what we're going to be like, where we've been, kind of how we know each other even, and how we've been working with people, and a little bit about our paths. And then we're going to get into the bulk of the class, which is really just our what is this new paradigm, and what is the old paradigm if there's a new paradigm, and how do we bridge the gap, and what are these different things that are at play in our lives when it comes to producing results, and like how do we choose our results, how do we know which actions to take, and looking at the big picture of it. And we're going to get into more detail than I think a lot of people do, because actions and results are usually done in a very simple, basic way. So that's pretty much it. And then at the end of the masterclass here, we're going to get into something that Kate and I had created that's really exciting that we're going to offer to you as a opportunity. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to do going forward into this masterclass here tonight. But before we do that, I just want you guys to know who's on the other side here with me. Kate has been someone that I met back around the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. And we were doing a lot of training together even. So we didn't just meet each other through circles. We actually did more than, I think, at least probably like 18 months of training where we were physically in the same place doing it together. And she was always one of the people that stood up as like the person who wanted it the most, the person who was taking the most action. And she's gone on and, she's done, I think, over a decade of just developing and not stopping. And you're not going to get a more ferocious, bold, like in your face, like, but in a really good, compassionate soul person than Kate. And it's just like an honor to have you on here, Kate. And I'm really excited for how, we can really deliver this tonight and the things that we have in store going forward.
Thank you so much. I've never been so pleased to be called ferocious. So, rar. Anyways, I'm a self-realization and integration coach. And what I do with people at this point in time is I help them take all the accumulation of what's happened in their life and distinguish what's them as their true essence and what's actually just a entanglement of stories and a survival mechanism. So I disentangle that and allow for people to have their true essence shining forward. And what that creates in their life is miracles, right? We are the space of miracles if we allow ourselves to be. And if we're living in our essence, we actually are able to do things like meet the love of our life or triple our income, which is some of the results that I produce continually with my clients. And so I'm really happy to share some of the techniques that I've been using for years, along with the ones that Justin and I have co-created to bring you all into this new future where your essence, your genius, your gifts are the things that are running your life and not life running you. And as Justin said, we have known each other for a number of years. We've done a lot of side-by-side work in developing ourselves. Justin is one of those people that you can rely on to deliver you straight facts, the truth 100% of the time. He is a strategist to his core, and he'll help you distinguish your gifts. And predominantly, he's worked with women to produce amazing results in like their personal, like professional lives, as well as in their relationships and finding the loves of their life. And he's just a great partner to have in this. I couldn't be more thrilled to work with somebody and get out into the world and really start changing the conversation that we live in. So thank you, Justin, for being a partner in this. Thanks.
That's so sweet of you to say all that. And yeah, it's, I guess the relationship being irresistible, a whole different program of mine with women, just to master their love lives. That started around 2018. Going back even further, I mean, I came from engineering school, and I think more than anything that helped me to think in systems, which is, you know, a unique skill set in its own. And just now it's really culminated in just the core of everything that I give to people is just to know who you are in your core. And that's your gifts, your personality, your core personality advantages, right? And ways that you can look at yourself and say, okay, how aware am I of how I operate, and turn that into a personalized performance system. So tonight, what's so great about Kate and I think, is that we have, you know, we've been at this long enough, and Kate is also very strategic. Don't sell yourself short, Kate. But we come at it from, it's like different angles almost, but and we have different ways that we talk about things. So kind of certain points Kate will say tonight will land with you. Certain things I'll say might land with you, right? But we've come to a lot of the same truths, or we know the things that work. And so we have a unique meshing that goes on, that you might hear something, you know, from one of us, and it might click with you, you know, in a certain way. So that's what I'm excited for tonight. So, yeah, with that said, let's get into what you're here for. So we're going to go into, like I said, we're going to define the traditional model first, right? And we're talking about conscious results. So what has been the model of results, and how does that work? Action results, right? You always hear that, like we want to have a result, and then what actions do we need to take to get there? And with a lot of people, and this is not, by the way, just to preface this whole conversation that we're going to have here, it's not something that there's a good and a bad way, or a way that just works or doesn't work, and that's period, end of statement. It's that there's a moving and a shaking and a flowing of these things. So we're not here to like kind of say, well, this doesn't work, or don't do that, right? It's like we're in an open conversation to explore here. So what I want to say first is that actions and results, this whole thing, it works, right? But what I like to say is, what's your definition of works? Because if these actions are going to produce the result, and that's fine with you, and that's the end of story, then it works for you. But it's like, how long does it take to get there? Are you taking the best actions, right? Are you killing yourself and like dying along the way? Are you just not even doing anything that, you know, lights you on fire and that you're really like passionate about? All these different moving parts. So that's like the first part. Like there's this hard work and grinding it out, and things that happen along the way sometimes in getting the result, that it's like, is this worth it? You might be asking yourself, like, is this really the way? Like, yeah. I know I'm told this again and again and again and again, but is it really it?
And really, like, is the result even worthy of your true greatness? Or is it some result that you're modeling because it's the predominant conversation of what's going on out there? Like, everybody, I mean, every human being I know wants more money, a better relationship, better relationships all around them. But like, what's the actual essence of those things that's going to make the biggest difference for you? And what actions are going to fulfill you in the process, so that you get to go not only with a result-based system, but you actually get to go with like a fulfillment-based system, right? Like, are you fulfilled in the process of achieving your life's goals? And one of the biggest things that I see that's really dominating the conversation of the planet is that all of the action, result, hustle, grind, work harder, sleep the least. All of that conversation is really driven by this not enough. The energetic flow of that is just not enough, never enough. I need more. It's consumption based. And I really don't think that that's the highest honor that we can give ourselves in creating lives that really are fulfilling and producing amazing results, because we all are capable of doing that.
Yeah. And it's something, there's something to do with your own you're the common denominator in the whole picture. And there's something about hard work and leaving it all in the field that's very great, and with certain personality types, that could be exactly what works for you and what motivates you and keeps you going, and it's good and you're right on track. But what happens a lot of times is there's this model of hey, look at that person over there. They are so successful. Let me listen to them. It's funny. I have this thing that happens to me when I coach a lot of women in relationships, Kate. And what happens is some women will decide, well, do I want to work with them? Do I want to invest in coaching? And one of the things that happens is they say, well, are you in a relationship, or are you this, or are you that? And what I'm saying is basketball reference, but Dean Smith coached Michael Jordan, but he never won a championship. He never stepped foot on the floor. He was a great coach, but he didn't win the championship. He didn't play, right? So it's when you're looking at the model, a lot of people just follow the leader and they just say, okay, well, this person is getting results, and then you're doing exactly what they did to succeed, but that's not what you need to do to succeed, right? So there's elements that will work and that will move you forward in what they did, because, there's clues where success is, right? But there's a whole nother world of hey, well, I'll just tell you from my experience, when I look at people who have really made it in a certain area, almost all the time, without fault, those people have done it their own way in some way or another. They have figured out themselves. They figured out how to do it their way. They don't go and just buy course, just blindly thinking that they're going to get the answer, right?
Yeah. And the thing about it is that the trial and error approach, it works, right? A lot of my development has been in the trial and error world, but that's not what you're here for. You're here because you're looking for an efficient way to calibrate to your natural design of creating results, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be going on and taking a masterclass about learning your gifts if you were trying to do it the hard way, right? And there's been enough research and studies out there and enough practical application for people like Justin has developed all different types of assessments, right? To help you distinguish your core values and your core gifts. And that's one of the things that can cut out a lot of the time wasting and frustrations that happen when you're trying to map onto something that isn't really in your essence or your resonance. And when I say essence, I just mean we all have gifts. We all have ways that we work. There are some people who are extremely action dominated and they can go out there and they can just execute. And actually, that's one of the great things about Justin is that he's able to design actionable strategies for people. And then there's people who are also more in the flow, who are more feeling. They need to feel themselves into. So what we want to have is a combination of both of those things that you can utilize to have your results show up quickly, efficiently, and that whatever work you're doing is not really that. It's more like play, which is what we're going to get into in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I just want to mention some things, because if this is, I want to bring up some specific examples that you might have felt in your life, because it's something that sometimes it can sound kind of like, big and broad, the things they're talking about. But sometimes you might have experienced in your life where you're going after something you really care about. I call it the big rock result, right? That big thing that you really care about. And maybe you probably had a lot of success, right? If you're watching this, you're probably someone that, you've done things, you've invested in yourself, and you've had a lot of success in different areas. And if there's that one thing that's not moving, right? Or that one thing that's not moving nearly as fast as you want it to, there's all kinds of clues in there that we don't normally look at as clues, in the traditional model, which is things like you have an intuition, like something's off here, right? Something's not like, it's not like connected, right? You might be getting everything you want, right? You're moving towards your result. You're getting everything you want, but it's like things just feel empty. Like you're not really there. Like you're there, but you're not. Like it's like, this is not what I signed up for, but I'm succeeding, right? So it's like there's all these different things, and I'm not going to try to break all that down right now because it can be really complex and it's sometimes very personal, but like personalized. But a lot of those things are clues that you're in the old model. You're in the old performance model. So
yes. Yeah. And I can say from a recovering overachiever myself, who has like more certifications than you can even imagine in all different areas, because, that thing. I was excited. I was excited about creating a big life. And so that led me down a lot of different pathways, right? But those things, they all taught me something. But what I really got, and this is kind of what I think you're speaking to right now, is that the clue is that I'm an excited person, right? I'm easily excitable, and I'm a creative person. So really what I learned about myself is that I could take any aspect of anything and have a vision about it. So once I learned that, it really slowed down the time wasting, because I stopped putting myself in places where I didn't really want the result that was going to give anyways. So that's a part of, I think, on the court example of what Justin's talking about, where it leaves clues. Success leaves clues. Failure leaves clues. It all leads to some kind of pathway for you to discern how to take this natural way you are and execute it in life.
Yeah, great. So I think what we could go to now is just looking at we can start with what works about the traditional model, right? Because there's a lot that works about it. And then we could get into like, what are some of the problems or things that kind of hold people back, like might hold you back in terms of, being efficient, being fast, being connected, all the things we're talking about. So I want to say one point about what works about it and how it works. And I know Kate's going to have a lot to say too, so let her go.
No.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I didn't say this before, but I want to say, like, one of the things Kate is really good at is getting with someone and kind of just feeling her way through it with somebody. Like, it's weird because I'm very, like you said, I'm very strategic. I like to lay it all out, but I'm amazed sometimes how I'm like, wait, Kate, you don't have to do that. You just kind of like feel your way through and you just know where you're. But I've personally, like, we've sort of had sessions with each other too at times. And like, we're the kind of people that we've had sessions with all kinds of people. Right. But, she just will feel her way through and she'll just sense like what the thing to do is, like, what's the main thing you need to focus on. And that's a big part of this new model too, is that it's like, let's get right to the root of what's going on. That's one of the way it works. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but what works about the traditional model is that, there's one of the things is like, there's this thing called SMART goals, which we've all heard about, right? So, I want to focus on the first two, S&M, which is like the specific and measurable part. And I'll tell me if this sounds familiar to you, because this is something that a lot of people like to coach. A lot of people like to put out there as like, this is how actions and results work. So you have your result that you want, right? And then you say, okay, we have to make that target and the actions specific and measurable, basically to know like when something, whether it's a checkpoint along the way or the actual result, gets accomplished, right? How do we check in? What are we going to do? So once we have that, we're going to decide what actions we want to take to get to the checkpoints, to the goal. So when you look at the actions, a lot of people will just say, okay, what are you going to do? And you're like, okay, well, I can do this, and I can do that, and I can do that. And it's like, okay, great. To me, that's like, as a coach in this, like that's seems kind of like a lazy way to do it, right? It's like, okay, you're thinking, great, like you're going to get somewhere. So, but what it also is it's going to work because you're thinking about what can you do. So you're going to come up with some things that work, right? You might come up with things that don't really work at all. You might come up with things that work pretty good. And maybe you'll come up with a few things that are like great, right? But also that process is just like a brainstorming session, right? It's not really like doing any of the work to figure out. And even, it's not like you're going to have to figure it out first try, right? But a lot of people, what they do is they like come up with this action plan the way I described it. And then they just sort of like start going and they put their head down and they even take pride in like, oh, I'm such a hard worker. And not like, it's good to, like I said before, good to like leave it all in the field. There's some great things to that, right? In getting a result. But it's almost like a pride thing. Like, I'm going to put my head down. I'm not going to look at other opportunities. I'm not going to reevaluate. I'm just going to like go, because all that thinking is just extra. And this is one of those things where it's like, that works in a way because it keeps you focused, right? It keeps you in line with where you're headed, and you're not going to let yourself give yourself a bunch of excuses to or get into planning too much and stuff like that. Some of us have a problem with planning too much, right? But it also has its downside. So I'm going to let you jump in, Kate, and see what you got here.
Okay, I'm jumping in. So it's really great what you said, because it is good when you have a specific result you're trying to produce. You want to look at it. You want to feel around it. And I did want to say thank you for what you said earlier. That is my genius. I can be in a space and explore with somebody and really feel energetically what would be the most efficient way for them to deliver upon something. And I think that's a big part of what's missing in the current model of success and the current model of achieving results is most people are not pulling in, right? Pulling up from their heart and their body into the creation space. So, for example, if you're going to make a list of 3 to 100 things, you have to check in with how do those things feel? Because like you said, people put their head down and they get going, and then they're like 7 miles in at the wrong direction and they need to turn around and they realize, oh, this doesn't feel good. And they start to throw the baby out with the bathwater, thinking the result that they're looking for itself is not the thing, when that's really, it's a farce, right? You have to really evaluate the actions taken, because that's going to dictate how the result feels in the end, right? So looking at that. So, we want to look at the creating a flow, creating a rhythm, and really, like, if we're going to talk about what works and doesn't work about this model, it's like what's missing for me is the multidimensional aspect of it. Because if you're relying on the brain strategy, you're really limiting like billions of possibilities for how this thing can come to be. And really, like, the biggest component of that is the opportunities that you mentioned that you can't see because your head is down. And what I think is really important to acknowledge is that when you can drop in, and we'll talk a lot about this in the near future, about dropping into the body and letting the body help you choose the directions you want to go into, there's a certain space that becomes available. And what I like to say is space is where wealth is. And if you're on this call, I know in some way you're interested in wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like it's like the openings, right? The opportunities, seeing the opportunities and seeing like, one of the biggest things for that is in just kind of seeing what's not working about these old models is that there's basically like blocks to action that you have right now, right? And a lot of that can be determined just by understanding yourself, like upping your awareness in how you operate and what patterns that you have. And even just like knowing, like, because I've worked with personality and these assessments so much, just those results. One thing I like to say about like your personality, sometimes it's like you can look at here's me on paper at my best. Okay, who am I now? And it's like a black and white, like, okay, what doesn't match, And that's a good thing to think about now when you think about like blocks to action, right? There's something you're dealing with right now, or something that, some bad habit or pattern or whatever it is, that is a block for you to take the key actions that are going to move you forward fast, right? Because the key actions, right? Not just any action, but there's key actions that if you're jammed up in your body, in your mind, in your thinking, and whatever it is, right? If you can release that, then you can just rocket yourself forward but it all hinges on being able to identify what is there in your way. Because if you don't know, you can't really do anything with it. And that's where Absolutely. I think we come, like, that's something that we're like playing in and we're discussing here, but we haven't really nailed that yet. But that's something that's so big because I mean, I know you're the same, Kate. I've been in lots of rooms and meetings and programs where it's kind of like you're developing yourself. And then I talk to the guy next to me and I'm like, hey, what do you care about the most in life? And he'll be like, what? And I'll talk to the person over here and they'll be like, well, I really want a romantic relationship. And I'll be like, okay, so what are you working on now? And it's like everything else, because that's the thing they're avoiding. So that's kind of like, that's the big thing. It's like, okay, that's your big rock, but like, you're not focused in a way where you're going to be able to take what I like to call a direct hit at the iceberg. People talk about the iceberg as the subconscious mind underneath the water and the only little bit showing. Well, what a lot of people do is they shave off the edges. I'm developing myself. I'm getting there. And then you die because you're like, okay, well, I never got there. So we want to take like a direct hit to the iceberg. And that's where, that's what we're talking about here is like finding out what is that key thing in your way to your key result and really just busting it up, busting up the things blocking you.
There might be people on here that are very action oriented and they have nothing about taking actions and they just go. Like the more action they can take, the more, in their current point of view, the more in alignment they are, but they're still not fulfilled in the specific area that matters the most. And for somebody like that, you might be needing to really slow down and let yourself receive or find ways to be supported. And that might be the key thing that's missing. And then there's others of us who are, procrastinators and can't figure out what action is the best one because we're so in our internal feelings that we don't know how to discern, when is go time, right? And so like, there's nothing inherently wrong with either one of those ways of being. It's just a matter of how to make it more well-rounded and have that actually deliver as a gift, right? Because I think that the way we're born naturally and our natural calibration is actually the thing that's going to get us exactly what we want. Like there's nothing missing. There's nothing wrong with you. You're inherently designed perfectly. But if you have from childhood experiences where that gift was either the way you survived or the way that you kind of had to suppress, that might have been the opposite. And you might have to suppress your gifts, right, to survive life. There's just like an entanglement there. And so really the key here is like Justin and I are talking about is how do we disentangle that and have that thing be the like the headlight on where you're going and let that thing shine forward, whatever it might be. And that's what really creates the efficiency. And really, like, you're going to hear me mention it probably a million times going forward. Play, right? Like this whole thing of life is designed to be playful if you really get out of your own way. And that's what we really want to introduce you to is how do you get out of your own way? And how do you use the ways that you've already done things to further you? And also, what else could we add? Right? Like we don't need to take anything away. We don't need to fix it, but we can add to your greatness and have that really fulfill on something that matters the most.
Yeah. And I think we're taught like from a very early age too, that like complicated is better and like learn, take tests, get good grades and all that kind of stuff that is all in the world of like, it's hard and it's a lot. And like, it's like it's so simple. Like we can just keep it simple and just do the basic things that matter. And it's also another thing with that I'll get into a little later, hopefully. But it's something like when you are working on something in your life, a lot of people like to have like 15 different areas and like, okay, we got to work on all these things, and it's like juggling balls constantly, and it's like just so overwhelming. And going back to so I'm going to get into later what a new way to approach it is, right? And as we kind of introduce some exciting things at the end of the video here. But yeah, like I think another thing about like you as a child and you now, it's like, and it's funny that I came up with this word actually during a session I was doing with Kate, to be honest. She kind of helped me get through some things. And I thought of this term reintegration, which is because a lot of people have like you might have a disjointed thing, like where you like, maybe you failed at certain things in your past, right? Or things didn't go your way, or you had certain conflicts with people, whatever it is. And you kind of bring that into now, but it's more than just saying, oh, I'm not my past, I'm over it. Like it's more than that. It's like your whole experience is like existing right now. And if you don't go back and kind of frame or just be at ease with what happened and what you did. And because I've talked to people before where I've coached people before that are just like every like 6 months, they look back 6 months and they're like, oh my God, I didn't know what the hell I was doing then. I was an idiot, like, it's like, oh, okay. And then like 6 months from then, like, oh, in that area, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. It's like, well, so, you were just like an idiot over and over and over again. Then that's life. It's like, that's hard to like come to terms with in your current situation. It's like, you're just not dealing with something, right? There's something weird about that. And, one thing that works really well, just a little like nugget here, is like, if you look back at your past, a lot of times we remember those dark things, right, that I talked about, the failures, the conflicts, whatever. And we don't remember like the successes of things and what they mean, especially like in childhood. There's things that you might have done like and succeeded with in different areas that don't seem like they apply to what you're up to right now. But if you can go back and you can first find success patterns of what you did that had you be so successful, and also like understand that those maybe childlike qualities or whatever age you were, you were, something was going on for you, right? And energetically probably was connected, right? You probably didn't accomplish something really great, hopefully, by just batting the wall over and over and over again. It was probably very painful that way. But anything that just flowed and worked and you were just like, consistently with it and you're producing results, like that's like something to really look at and say, okay, where was I? Like what kind of actions were I taking, but what kind of like energy was I in? What kind of people were I around? Like those kinds of things are great clues.
Yeah. And I love what you said. It's like your whole life, it really does in the multidimensional way exist right now for you. And a lot of people are walking around like that's not the case for them. And, we've all had the experience where, you're out in public and somebody gets triggered, or, you connect with somebody and like something about you brings up something for them, good or bad in the past. And that's just evidence that everything that ever happens to you exists in the right here, right now. And so it's very important to go back and look at the things like Justin's talking about that worked. And if you were a rambunctious child, like what was that about? If you were a really quiet, sweet child, like these are some clues that you can look at about how you naturally operate or organically operate in this life. And, there are things that happen to every single one of us that we have to deal with. And when they're left undealt with, and as coaches, we can really highly attest to this, anything that you're afraid to deal with owns you. And if you're owned by something, you're not creating life. And that just is very inorganic. It's just not the design of it. And so, even going back to the conversation about the current paradigm about results, it's like, if the predominant conversation is that you're not enough and you have to do more and you have to do it this way, or else you're just like, sucking air, that owns you. And so, we really just want to invite you into the space of discovering that calibration and really the gift of knowing your gifts and what that provides as far as freedom, efficiency, flow, creating a rhythm. These are all topics that we're going to get into over the next couple months. And we'd love to have you participate in these conversations as well. But really like that multidimensional space and just bringing an awareness to that's what is. life in this present moment. And I apologize, my dogs are there ready to jump in the conversation. So
that was so great what you said. Like, it's so cool. Like, it is like the space of life, right? Like, that's what we're in. And there is like a play, and there's a flow, and there's like the awareness of it all is really what like helps you see your way through. And it's all about pathways, right? It's like accessing the pathways, having doors open and not being closed off to things. And like, I love that phrase of like, if you let things own you, if you can't approach it, if you can't deal with things. It's so great. So a lot of what Kate just said too is like the new paradigm, right? It's the awareness, it's the discernment, it's acting with efficiency and really holding yourself to a higher standard of like, hey, what works in producing results, right? How fast am I going to get there? Am I going to enjoy the journey? Am I going to do it in my way, but in a way that works too, right? If you do it your way, but you're not following like the laws of the universe and things that work, it's not going to, it doesn't end well. I mean, I probably, gone down that road a few times myself. So one of the things that is really a crux of this whole conversation is really understanding your gifts and understanding different advantages and maybe even some things that don't work in your personality. Meaning like, if you are a certain way, you might run into certain problems, right? It would be good to know that. So that is something that, I work very deeply in with people. And it's sort of like a big part of looking at what's this new model, what's this new paradigm of what's going to really create conscious results, right? Something that is going to be very, very like fun and clear and accessible, and not so much just like, okay, what do I got to do next? What do I got to do next? And so when it comes to gifts, this is kind of where I think I want to start talking about what we're doing in the next several weeks. We have a program open that really centers around gifts and expanding your gifts. And there's a few more things too, but I'll let Kate jump in for that part. But for gifts, like what happens is when you understand like what's at your core, because some people like to say, oh, you're completely a blank slate and you're changeable and you could do anything you want, right? Some people like to say, no, you're a certain way, you have a certain personality, it's very, very hard to change at all, right? So that's just like the duality of life, right? It's like neither of those are correct. So it's like there's parts of you that are at your core that make up who you are. And you're not like this meaningless entity that just plopped here and you're physical, like, oh, okay, I'm here. Like, nothing matters. It's like you have, no matter what your, beliefs are in the world and the universe, there's something in you that you have advantages in. You have natural advantages. And then we were talking about before, there's experiential advantages, right? Things from your past that you can draw off of, like the positives and the successes. But for gifts, it's like, to know your collection of gifts, to know your personality advantages, it's like basically like if I'm looking at Kate right now and I could say, oh, I know who you are at your best because we have all this technology really is what it is, like the assessments. So I can see, okay, this is Kate at her best. Then you can basically, for anyone, you could say, okay, here are the collection of things that you're likely to run into. Here are the collection of things that you're really great at. Now, go out and choose the path, choose what you want to do, but at least you know where not to go and what things are likely to pop up, right? And there's a lot more with gifts that we could get into, but I want you to jump in, Kate, and just be the one to introduce what we're doing next.
Yay! Okay. So I'm just going to come out with it because I'm so excited. So we are actually going to co-lead a program, and it's going to be a couple weeks long, and we're going to have so many different fun activities and participation tools to share with you. But basically, the whole essence of it is that we want you to, one, have access to these amazing assessments that Justin has created. And then we want to teach you how to discern and navigate what these things mean for you. And so we're calling it the Youniverse program. And so we'd love, love, love to have you participate. And before we get into more details about what it looks like to be a part of that and, you know, the whole schematics of it, like, I really want you to take something in for a minute. And that is that your life is the culmination of all this experience that you have across all time, space, and reality. And that is a very, very big thing to try to digest, right? So I'm going to let you just be with that. Your life is a culmination of all existence across all time, space, and reality. And that's how big you are. And so when Justin's talking about, you know, you're fluid and you're mobile, and or you have a personality, and that also, both of those things dance with each other. And so if you can learn how to dance with life, that's going to make the biggest difference for you in your overall experience. Because I don't know anybody that looks back and says, oh, my life was so great because I achieved and did this and worked so hard and blah, blah, blah. Their life is great because they feel alive as much of the time that they're breathing as possible. And we really want that to be the experience that you're left with, whether you're with us or whether you choose to do something else or whether you want to go the, slow go, figure it out on your own, whatever it is, we really want you to have the experience that life is amazing because you're a part of it and you're contributing to it at all times. And really, the essence of what we want to have you get out of this work with us is that your external reality is a reflection of your internal reality. And so if we need to, update the hard drive on the internal reality, so the external matches your gifts, matches your magic, that your results, like I said in the beginning, are a match for your greatness and not just some contrived, thing that you made up because it sounded good or somebody else looked good doing it, When you have the infinite relationship with life, that your internal creates the external and the external comes back and feeds your internal, then you're in flow, baby. And that's what we want for you.
Yeah, it definitely works as like a upward spiral when you're in flow like that, and great things happen quickly, right?
Yeah.
No, it's like, why wait? Why wait for a great result? And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I know, Kate's someone who is just really great at being with you, right? And just being able to sense, and it's not even like our program Youniverse is a group program. So it's not like there's all this one-on-one time that's needed, right? Of course, if you really want the best results, one-on-one work is going to be the best thing you can do, right? That's just the reality. But what happens is you have to make real decisions, right? We have to know how much can we invest in one thing or another, whatever you decide to do. And one-on-one is the fastest, quickest, most personalized kind of situation. But group programs offer some level of, hey, we see you, we're with you. We might not be doing one-on-one sessions with you, but we get the sense of the group. And this is another reason why I'm so excited that Kate's here to really deliver for you guys, because she's someone who gets the sense of not just a person. She has a bigger, I don't know if aura is the word or something, but it's she gets the sense of a space more so than even just the person. Not more so, but the ability to do that is much more challenging, right, than just with one person. And that's part of her being in this group is going to be so amazing, because you're going to fill out your assessments and you're going to get feedback on exactly, these different dynamics, or, these, your basically your gifts and certain personality advantages. And what does that look like? Right. And we're going to be able to see all that. And she's going to be able to see all that and be able to look out at the group and say, okay, here's the direction we want to take this. Right. So if you're interested, by the way, the link's below this video, regardless of where you're watching this, the link to get to the program is below this video. And when you get to that page, you're going to be able to go through, okay, when is this? How does this work? If you want any detailed information on the program, you can find it there. But this is going to be a space for 4 weeks where we can really work on your gifts, your constitution. How does that flow in your life? And, what are the next opportunities to take? So it's going to be a great journey. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about calibration, because I know this is like something you're really great at. And it's a broad topic, but I just want you to kind of, whatever comes up right now, just share it with the people.
Okay. So I'm going to get into that in just a second. I just want to say quickly, the essence of the group, right? And the space of a group is super important, because if we were to take just a quick survey of what's going on the planet right now, it's the predominant conversation is divisive, right? And it's not empowering to the collective and the unique gifts that we have and pour into each other. Like we said, we've worked together. Justin and I have known each other for years. And it wasn't until everything happened the past 2 years that we really got the sense of how important it is to have big people in a space empowering each other, because that's what's really going to take us over the tipping point of this conversation for humanity. And that's the bigger thing. We just want to be a demonstration that, like, we can have a bunch of big players in the room and be the top 1% of the 1% making a difference on the planet. And so we want to invite you into that space. And that's your invitation personally from me right now. So, and calibration, right? It's taking all of who you are and gearing it towards the life you really want to live, like what really, really matters to you. And, years ago, I discovered what really, really matters to me is that people know that they're loved, they're lovable, there's nothing wrong with them. And that when they're in my space, that's how they feel. That's how they are left. And that doesn't matter if they're a long-term client or I see them at the grocery store. And so the work that I've done is to calibrate myself into that space where somebody comes into my energy and has access to that, no matter how, like I said, brief the conversation might be. And when we're talking about calibration, it's like there's things that we do that are like, they're quirks. We have quirky personalities. We're all human. We have our things. And we have to learn how to be okay with that, right? We create a calibration of success by being okay with who we are inherently. And so, like, you'll hear me talking about what we're reliable for. And you don't hear me talk much about negative stuff because it's not where I live in the world. But, I'm reliable for petting every single dog that I see, right? So that means I have to calibrate my life to be able to take longer walks so that I have time for that. And I know that's a silly example, but it's just one way to play in life and to find the ways that you are naturally and have them create wins for you on a moment by moment basis. And as I get to know you and Justin and I do the work that we're going to do on your gifts and your assessments, you're going to learn how to calibrate to your version of success and what really matters to you, and have that be the pull for the life that you want. And you won't have to work so hard.
Great. That's awesome. So, with that said, I don't really have much more to talk. I have a lot more to talk about. Let's be real. but we're gonna kind of end it here, and just reminding you guys that warm welcome. Thanks for staying to the end of the video, and big invitation to you if you're really looking to supercharge yourself and you want to be with a couple of big players and you want to be in a community of big players. This is the program that I'm more excited about this than a lot of things that I've done for a long time. So yes. Again, the link is below the video. Kate and I, by the way, this is kind of like the natural end of the topics and all that. But I just want to say there was a time, we kind of reconnected, right? We weren't talking a lot for a little while, but again, it was we're all going through this 2020, 2021, right? Everything going on. And it was just sort of finding the vibrations of energies of people, right? And Kate was just one of those people that was just I gotta call Kate, it's so I just talked to her, and it's just here we go, we're going. And it's not an accident, I think, that we reconnected. And as far as, this program, it's just going to be incredible because there is a structure. And again, that's on the site. You can find that below this video, the link to it. But, you want to have all the information because you want to know the dates and the times and different things that are going on. But a lot of this is going to be flow, right? We're going to be flowing through week to week, and it's going to be like, in a way, led a little bit by you in the group, and the other people in the group with you, that is going to build a community here. And each week to week, there's going to be like little things like question and answer, different things, whatever we see to do to support you, we're going to be doing it. So we're living in it, and we're creating it, co-creating this space, and we're doing it with you too. So really excited about that. And with that said, we'll hopefully see you inside Youniverse.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just to back up everything Justin just said, it's like when you start to play in the realm of who you are, things just happen and they just work. And, we reconnected and we just stumbled across this joint agreement about what we want to see in the world. And that is, we want people to be embracing themselves, their organic, divine, high frequency selves, and have that be the thing that's leading life going forward. And so we really would love to play with you. Like he said, it's going to be completely designed organic for who you are, whoever's in the group. I'll be curious to see all of your synergistic pairings who show up, because that's really my realm. And we're just going to have a rocking awesome time. We're going to kick off this new space of reality all together, and we're going to just see what we can do on the planet with who we are in our natural states. And so the links are below, as we said, and we look forward to seeing you very soon.
Okay.